So many of us look forward to the changes of season as it signals a new beginning in the year's cycle, but a lot of us sufferers, or sinus sufferers rather, dread these seasonal changes because it can only mean one thing: constantly blocked sinuses. So if this sounds like you, if you know of someone, or if your partner next door to you watching the show with you often suffers from sinus problems, we might have a solution for you in our Real Health Medicine cabinet. But before we tell you all about it, let's first get the 101 of sinus infections. Joining me for this discussion is natural health practitioner Rory Jean-Jacques. Good to have you with us.
Great to be here.
I know some people, they just dread that change of season. And some people have it, throughout the year as well. They feel bogged down, they're constantly clogged up, they have a whole bunch of nasal sprays and lozenges and sweets with them. They just become so irritable because of what's going on here.
It's so unpleasant, and there's a number of factors that play into it, and this is seasonal allergies. A lot of people have chronic sinusitis, which have a number of factors that play into it. I see how much people suffer, and over the years I've been able to find particular solutions that work very, very, very well for sinus. Having that chronic inflammation, a lot of people will have it seasonally, which is very, very different to having an infection. A viral infection or bacterial infection, you can even have fungal infections as well. Manifest differently to seasonal allergies. Your seasonal allergies really, really create massive mucus and congestion, but you tend not to have any fever or any coloration to the mucus. But that chronic, that intense immune response,
it's actually painful.
That intense pain that you feel in your sinus cavities, which sit here and sit here, and the blockage that you can even get. So there's a lot of mucus, but within that major mucus and congestion, you create the right environment. So a lot of people that have chronic sinus can then develop. It then develops into an infection, so it won't clear. So we tend to use a lot of different things: antihistamines, nasal sprays. We try and use irrigations. We try and use a number of different things to try and alleviate that. But when it comes to seasonal, the only things that normally work particularly well traditionally is your antihistamines. Not a lot of people turn to alternative, but there are very, very, very useful things that you can use. Things like bromelain from pineapple enzyme. Quercetin complex, phenomenal for that. Things like nettle leaf extract has natural antihistamine in it. It also clears acidity from the system and clears gut fungal infections, which can create an enhanced sensitivity. So a lot of people that have an imbalance in their gut flora and a fungal overgrowth will be very, very sensitive to molds and dust and seasons that much more. Because it creates a heightened immune response within the system.
So when you're saying it's seasonal, is it more like of that runny nose, watery eyes, and it sort of clears up as you get into summer or you get into...
Itchy, scratchy, because everything is blooming at this time, and it's all the flowers are blooming, but we haven't even moved into grass season. So when normally the grasses also start to grow, but they start to seed also towards the end of summer. So you have it at the beginning and you have it towards the end. And those are different types of pollens and different types of grasses and fibers which are in the air, and different people react differently to it. So a lot of people can get very asthmatic, so scratchy throat and very inflamed. A lot of people can get sinus, and it's inflammation, it's pain, and that increased antihistamine can make you very, very tired and very, very irritable and very, very moody.
And of course the headaches that people experience.
Headaches, and those headaches are all the way around the head, inability to sleep, trouble breathing. There are quite a lot of different things, and it's very unpleasant.
And then obviously you're more than likely to have postnasal drip. And then you start coughing.
Yes, with a chronic sinus, you then start to get the mucus making its way down the back of the throat. And then you start to run a cough, and it can affect your stomach. Normally what happens if it's an allergy-based thing, then you get the congestion, but then a bacterial, you have bacteria and fungus and a whole ecology that exists in your sinuses.
So like what we're talking about, the gut microbiome, there's a nasal microbiome.
Absolutely. So the health of your gut bacteria moves everywhere, through your lungs, through your nasal passage, through your ear passage. So keeping your gut healthy here and your bacterial balance good here bacterial balance throughout the system is very, very important. And there's specific probiotics which are actually healthy for the mouth and nasal sinus, and specific ones that exist in that area. So what a lot of people do is they'll do salt irrigation, or they'll use xylitol, they'll do different things that they irrigate the sinuses, which clear it. But that can wash out all your good ecology.
So aren't the xylitol ones then great because it's a prebiotic?
It's a prebiotic for your good bacteria.
As opposed to just the pure salt irrigation.
Exactly, and then it will also inhibit bacteria and fungal growth. So, and the xylitol is also very soothing. So that's a very, very useful one to use.
Yeah, so it doesn't dry out the nasal passages and that epithelial tissue and lining.
Yes. So also what I do with some of my patients is I actually use a liquid probiotic and I get them to nebulize with it.
Oh, nice.
So they actually re-inoculate this area with a good range of good bacteria. And that makes a big difference.
That's a great tip.
Yes.
And on that note, we're taking a break and then we'll come back and you'll give us more great tips. When we come back, we continue our chat with Rory Jean-Jacques about how we can deal with sinus infections and what's acute and what's chronic. What's the difference? We'll answer that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Thanks so much for tuning to the show. We're continuing our chat with Rory Jean-Jacques about sinus and sinus problems and how we can clear them naturally and at home. So the difference between acute and chronic sinusitis, how do you know when it's an issue? Chronic sinus problems.
So an acute sinusitis normally comes on when you have a viral infection, like a cold or a flu.
Okay.
So it comes on quite quickly. You get a scratchy throat. You really don't feel good. Malaise, fatigue, tiredness, headache, and
stuffy
you get a very runny nose, very stuffy head, and you do get inflamed sinuses, and it normally will resolve itself in a couple of days. So that's different to where you get seasonal allergies, which is normally you just get the season, but you don't tend to get that fever. You don't really get the major sore throat and the major sense of illness and feeling sick than what you do when you've got an infection. And bacterial infections, normally a viral infection will start. And what will happen is your immune system will be so busy trying to deal with that you know, the bacteria tend to come to the fore. That's why you'll then be treated with antibiotics, because now it moves from a viral infection to a bacterial infection. And normally what the challenge is, the moment you come in there and they see that you're starting to get a little bit of yellow or a little bit of green, they want to treat you immediately with antibiotics.
So if you blow your nose and it's yellow, or you're coughing up, it's yellow or green,
it's normally progressed pretty intensely, and that's something that needs to be done. Look, most of my patients haven't needed antibiotics in the last 13 years.
Wow.
You know, treating herbally and treating with the right botanical medicine. So it's not always necessary. You don't want to be irresponsible, okay? There are times when it is really necessary, but most of the time my patients come to me when antibiotics don't work, because you don't want to take antibiotics unnecessarily. You completely disrupt your ecology, and 80% of your immune system sits in your gut. 80% of, and that's the bacteria, that's your good bacteria. So you really want to do everything possible not to go on a course of antibiotics. The misuse of antibiotics is a major issue with superbugs.
I was just about to say that.
So you might have a bacterial infection, all the weak ones die off, but the strong ones stay behind. And you've just had an infection now for a couple of weeks, you've been treated, you're feeling better, there's still a bit of residual, you know, you drink the wrong thing, too much alcohol, too much sugar, you get very stressed, you get exposed by a draft. All of a sudden, it's back. Now it's worse. Now it doesn't want to shift. Now that becomes a chronic sinusitis, because you've got these cavities where bacteria is just sitting, just a little bit, and your body's producing mucus in response, and you're getting postnasal drip. Your breath is starting to smell because there's a bacterial involvement. You know, you're getting this constant having to clear your throat and your mucus. So you can even use a small amount, dilute amount of hydrogen peroxide, 1 or 2 drops in a little bit of water, and you can find a spray bottle, or you can irrigate with it.
You can steam with it as well.
You can also steam with the peroxide. You can use things like all baths, good essential oils, thyme oil, which are antiseptic, you know, and that will help to clear that bacterial infection without heavily affecting the microbiome.
Do you often have to advise your patients to be patient? Because this is the thing, when you have this type of infection, they just want to get rid of it immediately. And sometimes when you want to treat things naturally, you need to be patient.
So with the rightly applied anti-infectives or sinus treatments, you can start getting results in a day or 2.
Okay, amazing.
Okay, quite quickly. So things like golden seal work extremely well for sinus infections. Echinacea and golden seal.
In which form? Are you taking capsules or tinctures?
Echinacea capsule or tincture
Okay.
are extremely effective
Okay.
for infections and for stopping that inflammation and restoring the mucus.
I swear by Echinacea.
Echinacea is absolutely phenomenal, and normally you want the combinations that you can address it.
Yeah.
You can use things like eyebright and elderflower in combination with that. You can even get them in teas.
Yes.
And the eyebright is an astringent to the mucus.
Okay.
And the elderflower also is an astringent to the mucus, but helps the body sweat. It's a diaphoretic, so it will help to clear if there's any sort of infection in the system. The sweating helps the body deal with that.
Yeah.
So those are, and even elderberry.
Yes.
Or some buccal.
Yes, yeah.
Phenomenal for lowering the inflammation and lowering the
In
infection.
fact, before the winter period, you'll see that they often combine at certain pharmacies and health stores. They'll give you a dual pack of Echinacea and elderberry as well.
Yes. One of my favorite is Pelargonium sidorum.
Oh, yes.
South African plant. Phenomenal results. The koi actually gave it to the Germans when they first came here in the Spanish flu pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And they took it back, and now it's the biggest selling flu medicine in Europe.
Amazing.
Billions of dollars. And that's a humble little South African plant.
Yeah.
Not many people know about it. Phenomenal.
So sad.
I know. And things like dietary things that you can do is ginger, garlic, cinnamon, warming stuff, clear the mucus. Turmeric,
Yeah.
phenomenal,
Yeah.
phenomenal,
Yeah.
very, very good. And you want to also then avoid things like wheat and dairy. Dairy is a major mucus former.
Yeah.
So it's a major contributor to that.
Sugar, obviously.
Sulfites. Sulfur is sugar is mucus forming, so it definitely will. So you can actually download something called a mucusless diet. So you can just, for that period of time, so your body doesn't produce so much mucus from all the stuff that you're eating, because it's a reaction.
The Real Health team recently tried Sinugen, a natural supplement packed with all the goodness of nature and the stuff that we've been talking about. And it's been formulated to support you and to help you deal with unwanted symptoms of sinus infection. So I do have it with me. What's in it?
So Sinugen, 100% organically grown in South Africa.
Okay.
We decided to work with what we could grow here.
Yeah.
Because herbs grown here work better for people here.
Yeah.
And the herbs are grown in the platinum belt, so you get all those rich minerals, so you get platinum, iridium, so it creates a very, very strong acting medicine.
Okay.
So the herbs in here are, one of my favorite herbs is the elderflower, which we were speaking about, the sambucus. It's an absolute must when it comes to sinus infections, inflammation, clearing mucus. It's got thyme in it.
Nice.
Good old thyme. Thyme is a powerful antiseptic for infections, clears mucus, antifungal. It's got something in it called goldenrod, which is a specific for naso, even throat. Upper lung.
In fact, quickly,
mucus.
before I let you go, talk about these connections between the sinus and what's happening in the mouth, and what's happening in the ears.
Absolutely. So a lot of people that have had root canals, or they might be having teeth issues that they don't know about. They're called foci, leftover infections. If you've got some type of root canal and you're getting chronic pain and chronic sinusitis, you don't know why, you might have an infection in your roots, or you might even have a residual ear infection, because everything is linked within this area.
Yeah.
So
they're all neighbors.
Absolutely. So there are some very, very good holistic dentists which can actually check that stuff.
Yeah.
You may have had a wisdom removed many years ago, and there's still a residual in that.
Yeah.
And that can feed bacteria and infection into the system.
How often do you take this? Is it something that you use?
So Sinugen can be used for sinus, hay fever, and sinus infections.
Okay,
It can be used seasonally, it can be used...
Rhinitis,
Rhinitis can be used, it can be used chronically. If you've got a very intense, you can do 1 capsule 3 times a day, even up to 4 times a day to get it under control. Then you can lower the dosage. I've spoken to practitioners in the pole area where they do a lot of spraying.
Yes.
And they said they get phenomenal results with it. People, so the allergy component. So we've had very, very good results. That also will help the lungs and open up. So for allergy as well as infection, I've had some of the most really, really good feedback with it. So it works very, very well, and you can combine that with some bromelain and 1 or 2 other things if you want.
And just from your experience, how long does it take for people to
within a day or 2?
Okay.
I mean, if you're using it for something seasonally now and you're taking quite a high dose, you'll notice it that day.
Can you use it in a preventative manner? So it's coming up, this is something you always struggle with, you start beforehand.
Can definitely use that.
Okay.
And I've had people that are on it every day, and they use it for chronic sinusitis, and they're generally allergic people, so they use it consistently, and there are no negative side effects associated with it.
So safe for your children to take, your teenagers to take?
Very, very safe, yeah.
Okay.
One of the other herbs in there called plantain is extremely soothing to the mucous membranes,
Nice, okay.
And helps your good bacteria produce what they need to maintain their ecology.
So where can people find
So
this?
Sinugen is available at health shops and pharmacies across South Africa. It's available on neogenhealth.com and from scentedsecrets.co.za.
Brenda's Scented Secrets as well. Thanks so much for joining us on the show.